Okay, time being 7:30, I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of supervisors.
Supervisors are present. Supervisor Poole is excused, and District 5 seat is vacant.
Next item on the board is the appointment and confirmation of Supervisor Julia Robinson for District 5. Okay. Supervisor Kirby?
I move to suspend the rules to allow public comment before the nomination.
Motion by Supervisor Kirby, second by Supervisor Decker. Discussion on this? Supervisor Meadows?
I was going to make the same motion.
Okay. Any discussion on this item?
No.
Okay. Roll call, 2/3 majority is required.
Oh. I pushed yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, citizens' comments. Are there any citizens wishing to speak? Any citizens wishing to speak? Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
I live at 1800 56th Street. I just came tonight to cheer on my friend and former neighbor, Julia Robinson, to this board. While she will not personally bring anything to me, I believe she will help our county as a whole. I've known Julia for over 25 years. She's been my neighbor, my alderman, my co-chair committee member. I've known her to be honest, hardworking, always there for you, always willing to fight with you. I think that our county as a whole will benefit from her. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other citizens' comments?
Hello, my name's Nancy Loconti. My address is 1775 18th Street. I have the pleasure of being a neighbor with Julia, and she's an outstanding person. I think she has the record to be on this board. She cares about people's health. She cares about the community. She has enthusiasm and integrity. She's someone we can trust, and we'd all be lucky to have her on here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens wishing to speak? Any other citizens wishing to speak? Any other citizens wishing to speak? Hearing none, citizens' comments are closed. Moving on to the appointment and confirmation of Supervisor Julia Robinson for the 5th District. Following the procedure outlined in our ordinance, I caused notice of the vacancy and the call for applications for the appointment to represent District 5 to be published in the Kenosha News for the required time period. Following the deadline for submitting application, I interviewed the 7 interested candidates who responded, and I want to thank each and every one of them for the time they took in applying and for being interviewed. As I noted in my letter last week, I do not know that I'm aware of a higher number of applicants for the vacancy on the board. The 7 candidates were, in the order in which they were interviewed: Julia Robinson, who owns her own business and who previously served as a member of the City Council, Common Council, As the co-chair of the City-County Homeless Shelter Task Force, the vice chair of the City of Kenosha Board of Ethics, and is currently serving as the president of the Kenosha County Board of Health. James Kendall, who recently retired as a detective with the Kenosha Police Department, having served as a sworn officer for nearly 30 years, with experience serving on the executive board of the Kenosha Professional Police Association for 24 years, as well as serving on the executive boards of the Kenosha Police Officers Charity and the Kenosha Police and Fire Credit Union. David Arrington, who is a teacher and athletic coach in the public schools, moving into school administration, and who had previously served on this board. William Merritt, a physician assistant and co-owner of Modern Apothecary in downtown Kenosha. Patrick Melman, who recently retired after more than 30 years with the Wisconsin Department of Corrections, finished his career as a deputy warden. Tamara Weber, who has owned and operated her own business in Kenosha for a decade, has demonstrated a sincere interest in the operations and activities of the board. Jason Odom, a veteran and information technology specialist focused on cybersecurity. I wish to commend all the applicants on their commitment to their communities and their interest in public service. I could not have been more pleased that 7 strong candidates representing a wide range of community involvement and service were prepared to step up and serve as members of the county board. I share their passion for public service. I am confident that each of them has a great deal to offer to this board and their communities, and hope that they will continue to seek opportunities to be involved. This was not an easy decision to make. Any of the applicants would have served the board in the 5th District well. Each of them would bring significant attributes, life experiences, and ideas to the table. After careful thought and review of the qualifications of all the candidates, based upon my belief as to whose characteristics, experience, and skill set will best serve the board and the residents of the 5th District, as I previously advised the board, I am appointing Julia Robinson as a 5th District Supervisor. According to our ordinance, she shall serve until April 2025, when the voters of that district will have the opportunity to elect someone to fill the remaining year of the term in the nonpartisan spring election. Do I have a motion to confirm the appointment? Moved by Supervisor Gens. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Belsky. Discussion? Supervisor Decker?
I will be voting against this nomination for the appointment of District 5 County Board Supervisor. And my reasoning is the actions of the Kenosha County Board of Health during the COVID pandemic were horrendous. The Board of Health and Jennifer Freiheit, the previous health director, led businesses to believe that they could be shut down by the Board of Health. They let administrators of schools believe that they could shut down schools if COVID numbers got too high. And we have a generation of children with mental health issues because of the shutdown of schools. And the requiring of masks for way too long that we now know didn't help stopping the spread of the epidemic. And we also have children with school children that are years behind in their studies because of what happened with the shutdown of schools. And that is my reason that I will be voting against Julia Robinson, since she sat on the Board of Health. And during that time, the Board of Health really seemed to use that as a chance for a power grab. And I don't think that is what is needed on the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Gens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did take the time to call Julia Robinson and talk with her about her views, why she wanted to do this, et cetera, et cetera. I know some people who she worked with at the city. I have the utmost of respect for them. Everybody I talked to said that she served her constituents very well when she was an alderman, and the city on top of that. And I think that she will be a good asset for that district, serve her constituents well, and vote in the best interest of the county. And I fully endorse her tonight and hope that everybody else will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gentz. Supervisor Kirby.
I will also be voting to confirm her nomination. Over the last 24 hours, I've received many emails, 21 to be exact. 20 of those were in support of Julia Robinson's nomination. Some of the things that were said about her, she's an astute board member who asks good questions, and how we can improve the quality of care we provide to the underserved patients we serve in Kenosha County. I had more than one email talk about how she is particularly good at setting aside partisan matters and really making decisions based on what's best for her constituents, which is something I very highly value. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kirby. Supervisor Brown.
Thank you. Chair Uhas asked me prior to her completing candidate interviews if I had concerns about any of them. And I indicated that I believe the constituents in District 5 would prefer someone who is conservative, since they elected such a person in the prior 2 contested races, the last being by a pretty wide margin. I spoke yesterday with Ms. Robinson. She seems like a delightful person, but she's not a conservative. I respect Chair Uhas and her position, and I'm not interested in being part of any additional political posturing. And for these reasons, I will be abstaining during this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Brown. Supervisor Meadows.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be voting against this nomination of Julia Robinson as well for some of the same reasons that have been stated. She seems like a partisan pick for a position that we've been reminded is nonpartisan, but we have to remember that people of District 5 voted on somebody, Supervisor Thomas, based on their shared values that they had with him. And if we now put somebody in that disagrees with those values on a number of fundamental issues, we are not serving the people of District 5 in any positive way. If the roles were reversed and we were nominating somebody who was an outspoken pro-life advocate or a Second Amendment rights advocate in a very left-leaning district, nobody here would be quiet about that appointment. We have to look at that from that perspective, and therefore we should not be appointing Julia Robinson to this chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Meadows. Let's see. Supervisor Balsky.
Thank you, Chair Uhas. I've known Julia Robinson for a long, long time. I've worked, I've worked alongside her. I find that she would embody the nonpartisan role of a county board supervisor. We're talking a lot about conservative and what the district wants. I think we can leave that up to the district in April as to what they want after they see the performance of Ms. Robinson. I find her to be truthful. I find her to always dig into the facts and base her votes and her views on her findings. With regard to the health department, I was chair of Human Services, and I will say that I do not blame the health board, the Board of Health. I do agree with Supervisor Decker that I did take issue with Jennifer Freiheit at the time and some of her policies that we had to make her backpedal on, but I do not believe that Ms. Robinson was the cause of our health director's actions. And so I'm asking for everybody's support to give her the chance, and we can let the voters decide on what type of candidate they're looking for in April of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Balsky. Vice Chair Gashke.
Thank you, Chair Uhas. I will be supporting Ms. Robinson's appointment tonight. Ms. Robinson, when she served on the City Common Council, lived just a couple of blocks from where I do now. At that time, we were not neighbors, but that being said, all these years later, I still have neighbors. I still have friends in my community that speak highly of her representation and the things that she did for our neighborhood during her 10 years on the Common Council. And I look forward to welcoming her experience and her continued constituent service here on the county board. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gaschke. Supervisor Nez.
Yes, I, like Sarah, and I'm sure everyone here, received a great number of emails in support, and there is one particular statement that I just wanted to quote, if that is okay. This is from someone who has known Julia for about 10 years, he says. I haven't had the pleasure, so I'm taking everybody else's account. And he says, while our political views may differ, I found it refreshing that we could debate the issue and walk away with a better understanding of each other's viewpoint. Her willingness to find common ground, her business sense, past experience working on the city council, Julia brings all of this and more. Her commitment to run for this office in spring of '25 shows she is in it for the long haul. And I just took comments like these, I mean, when we're talking about partisanship and how that is actually something we would like to sort of remedy in this space rather than sort of lean into it, I think that a person with that description, and that was not the only person that described her this way, would be an asset to our group. And just that outpouring of support from the constituents, from her former constituents, current constituents of District 5, and everyone from the community was really inspiring to me. It's something that I aspire to be as a new public servant. So I really hope that we're able to have the privilege of these assets among us, and I look forward to working with her if we are able to vote her into the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Nez. Any further discussion? I'm sorry, Supervisor Franco.
Yes, thank you. I get the impression that there are a lot of people on the board who have already pigeonholed Ms. Robinson's political and ideological views. I spoke to her as well, and it's not clear to me what her supposed liberal views or positions are. If, you know, this position is a temporary appointment for 8 months. The position of District 5 has been not filled for 6 weeks. Someone has to fill this position, and I think Ms. Robinson is an excellent choice. Her experience that was mentioned by Chair Uhas, I thought stood out, frankly. Regardless of whether she leans left or right. I don't think that's at all relevant. In 8 months, if she's lucky to be nominated here, voted on positively, the residents of District 5 could not elect her, right? This is, you know, this is for 8 months. It's a temporary position. And I might add, there's no such thing as a conservative or liberal position in any district. I may remind the board here, there were the 3 previous members prior to, that served for District 5 were left-leaning liberals, going all the way back to Rick Dodge, Celebrate. And, you know, so there's no such thing as a liberal position, or, you know, a seat or a conservative seat. It's a nonpartisan seat. If she leans left, so be it. If she leans right, so be it. You know, just labels aren't going to cut it here. Let's see how she votes. And, you know, I think she's qualified. I know for a fact that any of the questions that were given to her, not one of them was, what is your political party or your political ideology? I trust Chair Uhas that this was a fair interview, and she is, has been chosen to be the best representative for this district at this point. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So I support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to clear the board. Supervisor Belsky.
Chair Uhas, do you have the questions that you asked of all the candidates, and were they the same questions, different questions?
Okay. Yes, I will share the questions that I asked each and every candidate. They were all asked from me to each candidate. Number one, tell me about yourself. Number two, why do you want to serve on the Kenosha County Board? How familiar are you with the operation of county government? Number three, what are your strengths? Number four, what is your vision for Kenosha County in the next 6 years? Number five, what are your weaknesses? Number six, what do you view as the county's role in budgeting and providing of services? Number seven, how do you foster teamwork? Number eight, why do you believe you are the best person to fill this vacancy? Number nine, describe your leadership style. Number 10, do you believe you can meet the time commitments of the position? 11, how do you view the importance of bonding in the county's credit rating? Number 12, what does the word nonpartisan mean to you? And number 14, do you plan on running for election in the spring of 2025? Those questions were asked of each individual candidate.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Supervisor Belsky. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, I know a roll call was Supervisor Grady? Okay, a roll call was requested. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're against the appointment, vote no.
The appointment passes 14 yes, 6 no, and 1 abstain.
Okay. We will now have the seating and the oath of office of Supervisor Julia Robinson for District 5. Julia?
To the office of County Board Supervisor, District 5, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof.
I, Julia Robinson, having been duly appointed to the office of County Board Supervisor, District 5, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
All right, congratulations.
Reggie, would you mind showing Julia how to work the microphone and her voting pad?
it'll light up, and it shows in the order in which people.
Okay. Okay, announcements of the chair. Tonight, we have for our Youth and Governance, Claire Koch and Aksa Saad Kadri is here. Thank you for attending tonight. And also, I would like to share that live streams of county board committee meetings are now available through the county's YouTube channel. This initiative aims to enhance transparency and accessibility for residents who are unable to attend meetings in person. Live streams and archives of meetings of videos are available in playlists arranged by the committee on the Kenosha County YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Kenosha County WI. Links to the video streams will now also be included at the top of the meeting agendas. I would like to thank our informational technology staff for implementing the streaming capability without incurring any additional costs to the taxpayer. That is all that I have. Reggie? Oh, under supervisor reports, Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This past Monday, July 22nd, we had our Public Works meeting at Kemper. And prior to the business meeting, we had a rather extensive tour of the Kemper facilities, some that are open to the public and you're familiar with, Ambrose Hall, Founders Hall, different areas, chapel, church area, but also some areas that are rarely seen, such as I believe it's the Bishop's residence, 3rd and 4th floors, which are undergoing renovation. And it went into some detail, the history and construction of this building, and I think it was well attended. We had some concerned citizens that attended, and it was a worthwhile overview of the entire facility. Just to remind everyone here in the room present, we're undergoing evaluation of Kemper and its operation, and this was a very good, I think, in my opinion, first step to acquaint not only the committee, but those people in the community with our proceedings here. Moving on from that, the first presentation in the formal meeting was done by Mr. Frank Martinelli, who is our civil engineer, has that type of background, and he gave us a history of the 10-year plan, which is a part of the Kemper campus. We are 4 years into that plan, and that plan is for the envelope, which would include the roof, the walls, and the windows. And each year, as a capital improvement, we put so much money into that so that that outside shell is maintained and will not have deterioration, which would diminish the property value. So, for example, in 2023, there was a certain amount set aside, and each year, going back and going forward, you look at the neighborhood of $250,000, something like that. Mainly what it comes down to is the building is built with common brick. It's called Cream City brick. And it has a very attractive aesthetic value, but in order to keep it in good shape, it has to be restored in a certain manner using proper mortar. I could go into excruciating detail, which I don't think you'd like to hear. But we have another 6 years to complete the 10-year plan, and we are at least maintaining, if not making headway, to make sure the envelope is secure. We also have a plan for the roof. We have different roofs within that complex, and it probably encompasses about every type of roof you could think of. Flat, pitched, slate, asphalt shingle, you name it, we've got it all. So again, that's all being addressed and so forth, and just to bring you up to speed. The next presentation that came along was the golf report. And golf is kind of a happy story. Golf has had some financial challenges here in Kenosha County over the past 10 or 20 years, but due to, I would say, a better grade of management, offering a better product, we are solidly in good financial footing, even though we've had an extensive amount of rainfall this year, as you're all probably aware. Usually rainfall and golf don't go too well together in terms of rounds. But this year, I'm happy to report to you, even though last year was a record pace of 2023, in 2024, we are, I have to read this again to make sure I've got it right here. Roughly 4,000 rounds ahead of the 2023 pace. So golf is a self-funded operation at this time. Whenever money is taken in by the golf, they keep it in their accounts, they expend it, and we don't have at this point, and even into the recent past, any taxpayer indebtedness. It's a self-sustaining operation, so it's kind of a happy thing. In the parks situation, we have some roofs that need to be addressed. The Pringle roof bids came in, and that is going to have a new roof on the Pringle Center. We had our previous month's meeting there, and those in attendance were actually able to see firsthand that roof, its deteriorated condition, and the plan to rehabilitate that. New roof is on schedule for the beer garden at Petrifying Springs. Silver Lake kayak and paddleboard rental should be in place yet this summer. It is no cost to the county. It's a private vendor that will basically allow the use of those items for a fee, and they defer some of the costs, I understand, by advertising. They've done it in other areas. We're not a pioneer project, and it's been well received. The personnel department for parks, Jordan Myers has been hired as a West End superintendent. That was a vacant position. We're glad to see that position be filled. Highways, I could go on and on. It's construction season. Everywhere you look, there's red cones, whether it's the city or the county. So just the very bare highlights here. County MB from County C to Q has been completed. County AH on just west of Highway 45 in the Bristol area, kind of by the Bristol Diner there. That is going from Highway SA to 83, Highway 83, and that will be completed this month. County E from Green Bay Road to 30th Avenue, that'll also be constructed, done this construction season. I think I already touched upon the facility special projects detailing Kemper, $190,000 committed this year to do the fourth phase of brick, tuck point, stone, and window refurbishments. KCDC, which is the detention center, HVAC, phase 2 of 4 is essentially complete. Phase 3 of 4 starts this month, and phase 4 of 4 starts in December. This has been a very ongoing and costly project just due to construction delays and the cost of material just getting very difficult to manage. But we're on the home stretch with that. Hopefully, I'll be able to report to you that that's completed. 2 backup generators in the works here. KCC, that's the County Center, Highway 1545, and then the Brookside backup generator have to be replaced. They're just at the end of their service life. Costly propositions. Backup generator for Kenosha County Center, $490,000, $1.9 million, if I'm reading my notes here correctly, for Brookfield, or Brookside. And then the last thing is, just on this campus here to the north, is the public service underground fuel tank storage. That's a $700,000 item. I had not been aware that it was deteriorating. In fact, it is not deteriorated that we're aware of, but it comes down to the situation where your underwriter, your insurer says, look, we're having difficulty insuring you as an entity because this tank is over 20 to 25 years old. It shows no sign of failing at this point, but even though it kind of irks me that you've got insurers calling the tune here, it probably is more prudent to replace it than to have a catastrophic failure and have to reap the consequences of that. So that is what's happening with special projects, and I think that's all I have for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady.
What?
Supervisor Gentz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair to Supervisor Grady, can you take me back to the vendor with the kayaks?
Yes, let me just get it up my thing here, we'll see what we can get for you here.
My concern with that is, I just want to make sure, and I just want it on the record, while the county's not paying anything for that, did we sign off on any liability waivers? Me and a kayak could be pretty bad sight, so I'm just wondering if we have any even though we're not the vendor, I just want to make sure that we're covered with that. If you could enlighten me, thank you.
I may not have every last detail with that, but it's my understanding that they have their own indemnity and insurance as a part of what they are doing. Say again? I think they have to rent the property. Right. If you'd like, though, I will check on that and get back to you with the
I
details.
just want to make sure we're covered.
No, I agree. I think it's wise.
Thank you.
Wise to consider that.
Thank you, Supervisor Gentz and Supervisor Grady. Any other supervisor reports? See none. Supervisors' reports are closed.
County executive appointments, 14, Sean Douglas to serve on the Local Emergency Planning Committee.
Refer to Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee.
15, Guida Brown to serve on the Racine Kenosha Community Action Agency Board.
Refer to Human Services Committee.
New business, Resolution 37 from the Legislative Committee, a resolution supporting the Kenosha, Racine, Milwaukee, KRM Regional Rail Line. This passed at committee 4-1. Supervisors Morrissey, Garcia, Kirby, and Nez voting aye. Supervisor Nordigan, nay. Vice Chair Gashke, excused. Supervisor Stocker, unexcused.
Supervisor Morrissey.
I move Resolution 35.
Motion by Supervisor Morrissey, seconded by Supervisor Garcia. Supervisor Morrissey.
Sorry, I think it was 37 was the resolution. This resolution is to work with the City of Racine, who received a $5 million grant to study the impact of light rail system between Milwaukee and Kenosha. This resolution asks the county board for support for the feasibility study for that funding opportunity, concept, and possible design of the regional rail system between Kenosha and Milwaukee. This resolution does not, I want to repeat that, does not commit any financial commitment currently or in the future. However, I think participating in a light rail focus group offers Kenosha County several benefits. It allows us to shape the future, contribute to shaping the light rail system's development and improvement, allows us to share your perspective, provide valuable insight and opinions as a user or potential user. It allows us to improve the community, help create a more efficient, sustainable, and connected transportation system. It allows us to enhance our knowledge, learn about light rail planning, operations, and benefits. It allows us networking opportunities, meet with fellow community members, transportation professionals, and other decision makers. It allows you to make a difference. Your input can influence decisions and lead to positive changes. It allows you to stay informed, receive updates on project progress and timeliness. It allows us to represent the underrepresented groups, ensure diverse perspectives are represented in the planning process. By participating in a light rail focus group, you can have a meaningful impact on your community's transportation infrastructure. The only thing I've heard against this is that the western part of the county doesn't support it. I don't know about the other 22 of you, but when I stood here in April and raised my hand and took an oath, I said I would do what's in the best interest of Kenosha County, not the 9th District, not the City of Kenosha, Kenosha County. So if the only objection is that the western part of Kenosha County doesn't support it, I don't understand that vote. I don't think a park in the western part of Kenosha County or any other infrastructure probably affects the residents of my district or, quite frankly, the City of Kenosha. But I don't base my vote on that. I base my vote on what's in the best interest of Kenosha County. So I would ask that you support this resolution. And again, I just want to reiterate, there is no financial commitment. So I will be baffled by those that don't support it. I would also indicate that Trevor Young from the Racine Transit is here in the audience and willing to answer any questions you may have in relation to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Morrissey. Supervisor Gearston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to say I really respect my colleague from the 9th, and I thank you for proposing policy to place before the board. But I do need to make the board aware that I am not going to support this policy. I was here working as a CFO the last time the KRM was being contemplated, and one of the things I know happened is I did a lot of work. And I also saw other county staff doing a lot of work, so there is a cost. The Public Works Director spent a lot of time and I think was on the committee, so there was a cost from that respect. I think there would be a cost in participating in this. I don't know if by committing to it, I haven't seen anything relative to the terms and conditions of the grant. It's a $5 million grant. This grant was provided to the City of Racine. City of Racine has control of it. They control the contracting. They control who they select to do the feasibility study. One of the things I read in the resolution is that this rail is desired. Usually you don't know if something's desired until after you do the feasibility. You may discover through the feasibility analysis that it isn't desired. So since Racine controls it, would we be able to determine some of the parameters of the study? We already have a train that ends here. I remember last time we were looking at this, we were concerned that it would push business to the north and push commerce to the north and impair us. Is that a parameter that Racine would look at? Since they control the contract, maybe they wouldn't look at that. I've read a lot of information about our rail system, and while other countries have premier passenger rail, our country globally is considered, and the last I read, I think is considered to have the best freight rail system. And I've read that that by making these passenger rail systems compete with the freight rail systems, it impairs that part of the country's infrastructure that it has to help move rail. Is that a parameter that would be examined in the study? Now, I think you know that when I examine resolutions, I do lots of vetting and I ask a lot of questions. So I've given you the tip of the iceberg here in order to respect the time of the board and my colleagues. I'll end there, but I just wanted to inform the board that I wouldn't support this policy at this time. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Supervisor Gearston. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to amend Resolution 37. You want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
You want to pass out? The motion the motion to amend, I have some supervisors passing out because it is a long amendment, and I want to make sure everyone understand it. So to appear after the last whereas clause, to start approximately line 40, I would add, whereas a feasibility study is step one of a potential KRM regional rail service, and whereas feasibility of KRM regional rail service is dependent on funding and funding sources, and whereas previous iterations of the KRM regional rail service proposals have required county funding, and whereas KRM regional rail service, if established, would likely involve some degree of county funding, and whereas a feasibility study may or may not take the need for county funding into account, and whereas it is appropriate to determine the degree of support the county would have for such proposal, and whereas a feasibility study may not involve making such a determination before reaching a conclusion, And whereas pursuant to state statutes 59.52 subsection 25, Wisconsin statutes, the county board can adopt a resolution contingent on it being ratified or approved by countywide referendum. And then, to appear after the now therefore be it resolved clause, add, be it further resolved that the enactment of this resolution shall be contingent upon it being approved by the citizens of Kenosha County at a referendum to be conducted during the election to be held on November 5th, 2024, and be it further resolved that the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors, in legal session assembled, does hereby approve that the following question be placed on the November 5th, 2024 ballot as a contingent referendum question. Question: should Resolution 2024-37 become effective, causing Kenosha County to support the feasibility study for the funding opportunities, concept and design of a Kenosha-Racine-Milwaukee regional rail line that includes a stop in Kenosha County, knowing that such a regional rail line would require a new tax or fee to be assessed on Kenosha County residents regardless of their intent to use the service? Yes, no. And be it further resolved that the Corporation Council prepare a notice of referendum to be published by the Kenosha County Clerk in accordance with statutory requirement. And be it further resolved that this resolution and the referendum shall be filed with the Kenosha County Clerk no later than 70 days prior to the November 5th, 2024 election, at which the question will appear on the ballot. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be forwarded to Kenosha County's state and federal legislative delegations, Governor Evers, all other Wisconsin counties, and the Wisconsin Counties Association.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Decker, second by Supervisor Gearston. Discussion on this item.
I have some discussion.
Supervisor Decker?
That's okay. So a lot of people weren't on the board in 2010, so I just wanted to let people know that on November 2nd, 2010, there was an advisory transit tax referendum in 7 municipalities in Kenosha County. They were in the town of Randall. Well, there was a resounding no vote in this referendum. The town of Randall, all of these are no votes, the percentages. Town of Randall, 87.39%. Town of Salem, 83.32%. Town of Wheatland, 88.42%. Village of Bristol, 85.50%. Village of Paddock Lake, 85.36%. Village of Silver Lake, 86.54%. And the Village of Twin Lakes was 84.04%. So my colleague Supervisor Morrissey mentioned that people West End are against it. That's because they were the ones that held a referendum. Back in 2010, I tried to get a referendum for the entire county board passed in this body, and it didn't make it out of committee. So that is why we didn't get one county-wide, because the county board supervisors at that time did not want to hear the voices of the citizens on this issue. So the local municipalities brought it upon themselves and did their own local referendums. The city of Kenosha could do one. Who else didn't do one? Pleasant Prairie, Summers, Paris, Brighton. They could have all done one, but they didn't want to. So these are the numbers of the people that voted. It was a resounding no, and I believe the entire county should get a vote on this issue. And that's why I'm proposing this amendment, so the entire county can vote whether they want the KRM line and the taxes that may go with it. That is my reasoning. I believe that the vote of the people should be heard, that we should allow them to vote instead of having politicians telling them what is best for Kenosha County. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Nordigan.
My comments were on the original resolution, not on what's been proposed. Is
Okay. Well, you know what? Let me clear the board.
Yeah.
And this will be discussion on the amendment. Supervisor Morrissey.
I'd just like clarification from the Corporation Council whether we are allowed to have this type of referendum. I thought the Republican legislation took the ability for the majority of resolutions or referendums away from the taxpayers, but I'd just like your clarification on that.
It is correct that the state legislature did away, generally speaking, with advisory referendum. However, left in place was the ability to have the county board pass items, both resolutions and ordinances, contingent on being approved at a referendum. So that still exists, and my understanding is that that was what Supervisor Decker was proposing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Morrissey. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I take a look at the information before me on this addition or this modification to the main proposal, I think there's a lot of good information and good thought here. But the question in my mind, isn't this premature? We don't even have a study or a recommendation going forward, yet this is trying to address a whole host of things that have not come to pass, may not come to pass, don't really know. Furthermore, when the western entities in Kenosha County made their particular stand referendum, that was a number of years ago. I mean, we are, I would think, a vastly different population center, transportation center, warehouse center than we are in those days. So, all things considered, I think going forward, if we had to actually vote upon a proposal where it was going to be on a referendum type basis because it had all the information before us, this type of document would be appropriate. But I look at it and I see it as premature, so I would not support it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Supervisor Gens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Grady echoed a number of my thoughts. I mean, as the former CFO of the county, and he tells us that all the time, as he pointed out, he asked a lot of questions and did a lot of digging that we really don't know until the study comes up. I mean, and to ask I'm confused as to what we're asking the people here, whether they want the study or they want the rail. So, I mean, this to me is putting the horse before the cart. I mean, we should get into the dialogue, listen to the feasibility study. I'm all about money, so I want to know how it's going to be paid for, and I want certain questions answered. But without them having even been asked, you're making a decision that it's going to come up a certain way without even looking at a study. And to ask and to do a binding referendum, I had heard Supervisor Decker was going to do this, and I supported it coming into this meeting, because I have no problem asking the constituents of Kenosha County whether they support something or not. But I do have a problem asking them if they want to participate in a study that doesn't cost us anything. That's kind of asinine in my book. So, I mean, once we get the results of the study, maybe we look at it and say, this isn't feasible. And if people try to push it at that point, certainly bring it to the taxpayers and the voters of Kenosha County. They do have a right to weigh in on certain issues. So I was all set to support it, but I mean, even the question, it should end at Kenosha County, not knowing that such a regional rail line would require a new tax or fee. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, who knows? Maybe 14 years later we get different funding. I don't know. But we don't know that, so how can you put that in a referendum question? This is just, this to me is out of line. So I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Kirby.
Supervisor Gens covered most of what I was going to say. My additional concern is the way this is written. Does this commit us to spending funds that we otherwise would not have wanted to spend? Because as Supervisor Gens said, we're just saying we want a seat at the table when the study's happening. When I voted, for this Resolution 37, it was with the intent that if it costs us any money, my vote could change. I really need to know more information. And I agree, this is premature. I don't want to accidentally back us into a corner if people say, yes, we want this feasibility study, into having to pay for a portion of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kirby. Vice Chair Gashke.
Thank you, Chair Uhas. I will not be supporting this amendment, and it's not because that I don't want to hear from the people, it's not that I don't support a referenda, but as has been stated, I feel like, this is premature. It's putting the caboose before the engine, so to speak. And what I'm simply recommending is that we make a place at the table for Kenosha County to find out more information. And if further down the line, it's appropriate for us to do a countywide resolution to hear from the people before we commit ourselves to any expenditure, then we can do that further down the line. But at this point, we need a seat at the table to learn more information. And adopting this proposed amendment would not be wise at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gashke. Supervisor Nez.
Most of what I was going to say has been covered by the previous several statements. The only other thing that I would add is that, as we mentioned, the feasibility study will give us the information that the voters will need to vote on such a referendum, which I think is actually a good idea, as everyone else has said, that hearing from the constituents about what they want across the whole county, I think is a great idea. But I envision a situation where this referendum is on the ballot and I have constituents reaching out to me asking details and we don't have them because the feasibility study isn't completed yet, and then they are confused about why they are being asked to vote on something where we don't have all the information yet. So I think, as Vice Chair Gashke articulated, having a seat at the table during this study will give us the information and knowledge about the project that we would need in order to inform the constituents and to have them make an informed decision when that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Nez. Supervisor Meadows.
Yes, thank you. We absolutely should be accepting this amendment for the reasons that people in Kenosha County are hurting. Everybody knows the economy is in shambles right now, and even the threat of the potential for higher taxes is a big deal. The number one reason people voted me for my position in my district was because they were tired of paying high property taxes, and it would be disingenuous to ignore the wishes of my constituency because it might be good for the rest of the county. People on the west side of Kenosha County are not interested in this rail. They're also tired of government waste and spending and all of the waste that we're doing. Why waste our time doing this feasibility study when there's no chance that this is ever going to pass? There's no chance that we're ever going to pay for it. It's never going to be profitable. Let's just get out of the business of wasting our time and our resources on something that is completely unnecessary. No rail system in this country has ever been overly profitable without tons of reimbursement from government entities and taxpayers. The taxpayers are sick of it. They're tired of wasting the money. We got to stop it now. Let's put our foot down and actually do something for the benefit of the residents who are hurting because of the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Meadows. Supervisor Franco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not averse to a countywide referendum. However, my concern with this is that it's really not an amendment. It's an alternate resolution. There's so much added information and so many questions that arise from the language here that you're not really amending the resolution we're considering. This is an entirely different resolution. I see it as apples and oranges, though they're connected. I can see that. But there's so much other information here in one sitting. I think, frankly, that there's too much info that needs to be addressed before we make any link or make any connection to an actual ballot referendum, so I won't be supporting it either. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Franco. Supervisor Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Uhas. Just a couple of questions. As I'm sitting here thinking about this, this resolution, indicates that the county would support the feasibility study. Does the feasibility study not go forward if the county does not support it? The author of the resolution, does the feasibility not go forward if the county does not support it?
Why don't we have Trevor Young come up?
Happen.
Trevor, would you please come up to the podium, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the Kenosha County Board. It's an honor to be here with you today to address the question of whether or not the study would commence without the passing of this resolution. It would still continue. And I believe the content of the resolution is about the county having a role and a seat at the table regarding a say in the direction of that study.
There's no, I read the resolution and, continued questioning here. It does not indicate that we would get a seat at the table, but it does not indicate that we would not get a seat at the table. So if we do not pass this resolution, does the county not play a role in this at all?
Well, it would be the discretion of policymakers here whether or not they would like that, and I think that's the subject of the resolution itself.
I guess it's not whether we would like it or not. I guess that there's been a few statements, and I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it. Either we get a seat at the table or we don't, and I guess if we don't pass the resolution, doesn't mean we don't support it, but it also means that we don't officially support it. So I guess I feel like it's a gray area, and it feels like this is a fluffy resolution that doesn't really have any meaning, substantive meaning to it, because it doesn't preclude the funding or the feasibility study from going forward. It probably doesn't prevent us from having a seat at the table because we have, we're a county government and we have a part of the state, and if there's any sort of a tax part of this, we're going to have a seat at the table and discussion on it. So it feels like, maybe the resolution's even premature if it doesn't even mean that we don't move forward, or that the feasibility study doesn't move forward. So I was just confused, and it sounded like, we get a seat at the table if we pass this, but there's nothing in there that states that. So,
Supervisor Carroll, do you have any other questions?
I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Supervisor Decker, did you have anything?
I answered his question.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Garcia.
Can I ask Trevor something?
Absolutely. Trevor?
Trevor, do we have a seat at the table now?
Well, the bodies or units of government that have a seat on the steering committee are those that have passed resolutions. So if you look at the city of Kenosha, the city of Racine, the city of Milwaukee, they've all passed a similar resolution of what's been proposed here. I believe that Supervisor Morrissey modeled his resolution after what those bodies have done, and so in order to honor the commitment that those legislative bodies have made, it would seem that it would be appropriate to take the same steps if you wish to be involved.
So is Kenosha named in any of the studies, though, that you're doing now?
Well, the city of Kenosha has been engaged in this work. So Mayor Bogdala and Tim Casey, who's the city development director, both have a seat on the steering committee. The steering committee is then informed through a technical working group, which has professional staff from the city of Kenosha, the city of Racine, the city of Milwaukee, and we have an intergovernmental agreement with the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, who in their Vision 2050 plan has this passenger rail line as a recommendation. And so that is where we sit today without the passage of this resolution in support of the study.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Well, with you leading this study, could you tell us now if Kenosha County would be paying anything towards this rail line, and if so, do you know any of those costs right now?
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Supervisor. At this point, we are approaching this as a feasibility study with the context of previous efforts. And I appreciate Supervisor Decker for bringing up that this is not the first time that the KRM line is being considered. With that being said, we are considering different modes of funding. If you look at private-public partnerships that are happening across the country, like Brightline in Florida and Brightline West from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, you're seeing that passenger rail being tied to property values, tax increment districts, different value capture methods are an alternative way of funding these types of projects that haven't happened in the United States. Usually. And so to have that as context and have that come after previous efforts, we're looking at that as alternatives to local property taxpayers having to foot the bill for a local share of that capital investment. So while we don't have those numbers yet because the feasibility study is not complete, we're looking at those alternative modes of funding which would address many of the concerns that have been brought up by supervisors that are being watchful eyes for their constituents related to property taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Garcia. Supervisor Nordigan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my comments would pertain to now as well. The one thing we don't see, we see the city of Milwaukee, we see the city of Racine, the city of Kenosha. You know what we don't see? The county of Milwaukee nor the county of Racine. So how come they weren't in this referendum as well? My guess is, for the same reason why I voted against it in committee, is you really are looking at something that's going to benefit and only benefit the cities that have approved it, up and down, and like Pleasant Prairie, Summers, along the way, they will, Mount Prospect and all that, Mount Prospect, Mount Pleasant. But, you know, I hear this, well, this is east versus west. You know, you guys have stuff out there that we're not using. But you know what we don't have out west? We don't have a rail line out west, but we have roads you use, we have parks you use, because you have parks and roads down here that we have. So I think that's a non-issue to comment that it's an east versus west thing and you just don't want it because you won't use it. You're right, and we won't use it. And neither will 80% of the western part of the county. The city of Kenosha has a seat at the table. The city of Kenosha lies in Kenosha County. So therefore, Kenosha County does have a seat at the table. I don't know why that isn't considered here. It really is part of the issue. The private investment, that might be the best way to go, but I don't see how the county needs to get involved in this. I will vote, I guess, for the referendum that's been amended here and attempts to, it specifies if we have to spend money that you need to vote yes or no. It has nothing to do with the actual plan that they're looking to develop. But if it doesn't pass, I will still be voting no for this resolution, just simply because the counties, none of the counties have been, at least in this resolution, been even asked. We're the only ones being asked. Why? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Nordigan, I'm going to clear the board, and we'll start a second round of questions and discussion. Any further discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Garcia.
Just a question. Could we amend this amendment?
You may.
To change the wording in the question for the referendum? Because, I mean, if supervisors aren't going to support it because of that, would they be willing to support it if we took out the last part of the question for the referendum?
Supervisor Garcia, what did you propose? What do you want to change?
Let me see. So, put a period after, include the stop in Kenosha County.
What line?
Line 3. After the 8th word, Kenosha. Or 9th word, county. And then getting rid of the rest of this question, and then leaving yes and no, yes or no.
So do you want to read that, please?
Should Resolution 2024-37 become effective, causing Kenosha County to support the feasibility study for the funding opportunities, concept, and design of a Kenosha-Racine Milwaukee Regional Rail Line that includes a stop in Kenosha County, period.
And everything else is deleted in that paragraph?
Yep, and leaving yes and no.
That's your amendment.
Yeah.
Is there a second to Supervisor Garcia's amendment? Second by Supervisor Kirby on Supervisor Garcia's amendment. Discussion on the amendment. Supervisor Gens.
As I said in the last time I spoke, I could support going to the people with a referendum, but I would like to see everything eliminated except the last whereas, and then the be it further resolved and ask the question, because you're putting all kinds of stuff in there that we don't know until we get the feasibility study. So, I mean, I commend Supervisor Garcia for his amendment, and I could get behind it, but I don't need this big diatribe of stuff that we don't really know yet. And, you know, I can appreciate people saying, well, this would lead to new taxes and stuff like that. We don't know that. I mean, in the past it has, but there are different alternative sources to funding now, and we really don't know that. So I think that by eliminating, to stick with the amendment, if we could eliminate all the whereases up to the last whereas, which asks for us to go out.
But we're on his amendment, right?
I am on his amendment. Okay? His amendment, I can support if we get rid of all the other whereases, except the whereas asking us to go out for.
So you want to amend his amendment? You can't do that right now because we have two amendments out there. So we have to vote on those two.
But I can talk on his amendment and why I support it and why I don't.
Correct.
Okay.
But you're saying you want to remove them now, and we can't remove them now.
I'm saying that that's what it would take for me to support his amendment. So all those whereas is up on top except the last one, which is asking to go out to the public, and then the be it further resolved to ask the question. That is the compact thing that I could get behind, and if he would adjust his amendment that way, I could support it. Because basically, he asked a question, I wonder if people could get behind something that doesn't ask that question. Well, that's what it would take for me, because I came here, okay, even though it's still putting the horse before the cart, you know, I'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Stocker.
Do we know where the stop would be located in Kenosha County?
Trevor, would you please come up once again, please?
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Supervisor. We are in the process of the study itself. So a lot of these questions would bear out in what our consultants' work would do as a result of the direction from the steering committee. You currently have a metro station. Would there be additional service in Kenosha County? That would be a question that would be answered by the direction of the study. Again, the funding of the commuter rail will be studied. The service concepts of the passenger rail will be studied. A lot of these elements of the project that have been discussed today are just beginning to be discussed as a matter of launching this effort.
Is there a likelihood that it would not be in the city?
The additional service?
Yeah, the additional stop. Well, it says here, be a stop in Kenosha County is part of, so that's why I'm addressing it now.
That would bear out in the study.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Stocker. Supervisor Balsky.
Trevor, don't go too far. Are there any other counties that are doing these resolutions?
Well, we are engaging with Milwaukee County and Racine County in the future. This would be the first county that would be...
When you say in the future, what does that mean?
We would hope to have their support for this effort, and so we
For the
would-
feasibility study or for the KRM line?
The feasibility study.
So why are we the first ones being asked?
Supervisor Morsi brought this to the table.
Oh.
This was...
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Belsky. Any further discussion on Supervisor Garcia's amendment? Supervisor Decker?
I will be voting against Supervisor Garcia's amendment because an important fact of the KRM line is how it is going to get funded. It's a pie in the sky when we say, oh, it would be great to have a KRM train line in Kenosha. Of course it would be, but let's get to reality. How is it going to get paid for? No one wants to say how it's going to get paid for because they don't want to admit that the taxpayers are going to be on the hook. And that's why this question talks about taxes, because we don't want to fool the constituents of our districts and the residents of Kenosha County and make them think that the federal government is going to pay for this or some private entity is going to pay for it. County taxpayers are going to pay for it. And actually, nation taxpayers are paying for the study right now since it came from a grant from the federal government. So we're paying for it right now. You just don't see it in your property tax bill or in an increase in the sales tax or an extra line item if we get a regional taxing authority allowed to tax us for the KRM line. That's the importance of mentioning taxes in it. So people don't think that this is some free program from the federal government that no one has to pay for, but it is going to be paid for by us, the taxpayers locally. And my belief is one of the reasons why they want Racine, Kenosha, and Milwaukee counties involved in it is because they want the county taxpayers to pay for it. Not just the local municipalities that this train is going to run through. They want everyone's dollars, and they especially want the dollars from higher-end communities in all three counties so it can fund the mass transit of the cities, taking money from the counties and giving it to the cities. It's a well, never mind. That I am voting against this amendment.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Kirby?
I would like to make a motion to send this amendment to the Legislative Committee to be drafted as its own resolution.
Corporation Counsel?
I don't think we can send just the amendment to the committee. I think we could send the entire resolution as it currently stands with the amendment pending back to committee, and some of these questions could be hashed out there, but I don't think we can separate out the amendment and just send the amendment to the committee.
Okay, then I move to send the resolution along with the amendment back to the Legislative Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Kirby, second by Supervisor Decker to send this resolution back with the amendment to the Legislative Committee. Discussion on that item. Let me clear the board. Supervisor Garcia.
Well, then if it comes back to the same committee, I'd encourage all of you guys to attend and speak on it.
Thank you, Supervisor Garcia. Any other comments? Supervisor Morrissey.
So are we sending Supervisor Garcia's amendment back, or are we sending Supervisor Decker's? Because I'm confused of what we're sending back.
It would be both going back because neither one were acted upon, and they're both still live on the floor. And the entire resolution with the two amendments would go back to legislative. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none, let me clear the board. All in favor? Aye. Roll call? Roll call has been requested. This will be sending both amendments and the original resolution back to the Legislative Committee.
I just have a question for council. What are we voting on?
We are voting on what I stated. We are voting on the two amendments, your amendment and Supervisor Decker's amendment, as well as the original resolution going back to the Legislative Committee.
So just sending everything?
The amendments and the original resolution are going back to committee. All right, so I need to vote.
Motion to send it back to committee passes 17 yes, 5 no.
All right.
Communications 35, communication from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve the probationary cabaret license, Sit and Bowl Tavern, 39600 Bloomfield Road, Town of Wheatland.
Refer to Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee.
36, communication from Reggie Walagora, a resolution requesting approval of the formation of a Rock Lake Management District within Kenosha County pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 33.25.
Refer to Planning and Development Extension Education Committee.
Claims 13, John Webb, property damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
14, Heather Saunders, property damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
15, Carmen Sosa, personal injury.
Refer to Corporation Council.
16, John Lindsay, property damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
17, Pauline Lorenz, property damage.
Refer to Corporation Council.
The approval of the July 16th, 2024 County Board meeting minutes by Supervisor Gentz.
Supervisor Gentz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the minutes of July 16th, 2024.
Motion by Supervisor Gentz, second by Supervisor Decker. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Decker, second by Supervisor Gentz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.